Hello and welcome, everybody. I am Sally Clark. I am a vice president with AFG Group, a woman-owned small business construction management firm. And I am bringing to you Mindy Hinesley with Hinesley Collective, who is a marketing and business development guru, and Belle Ferraro as our small business, our SAME director of education. And today we will be talking about the Small Business Conference, call for presentations, and how to make your abstract pop. I am also the chair of the Small Business Community of Interest. And the Small Business Community of Interest is the host COI for making sure that we bring the best of the best presenters and content to our largest SAME conference, the Small Business Conference. What we like to do and why we thought that this session would be important, particularly as the deadline is coming up for abstracts on Monday, is that we wanted to make sure that we conveyed the importance of how small business success is really at the core of small business conference. So making sure that we're bringing the education sessions, we're bringing the network opportunities, and that we're bringing the people that can help them make difference in the trajectory of their small businesses. So today, we're going to go through a couple of the do's, the do nots, the tips that are going to help you make a difference in your presentations as you think about submitting. A few housekeeping notes, as you can see. The ones that I want to highlight is that we're going to encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A section. Should be to your right-hand side. And if you put your questions in the chat area, they won't be deleted. They will just be moved over to the Q&A. We encourage you to upvote the Q&A that you find most relevant to your situation. And all handouts, the copies of the slides are going to be available also on that area. A copy of the recording of this presentation will be available tomorrow for anybody on your team or people that you may be having interested in watching for this. So we're going to kick off with a poll question. Have you submitted an abstract for an SAME event before? No, this will be my first time. Yes, but my abstract wasn't selected. Yes, my abstract was selected, but it never hurts to improve. So go ahead and click and press submit, and we'll see who it is that we have in the room. And I love that everybody is putting who is here, where you're from in the chat area. Thanks for sharing. I'm starting to see some of the poll results. It looks like we have a lot of first timers. All right, super. So if we could go ahead and close the poll. It looks like we have the vast majority of people, this is their first time presenting with SAME. And then it's kind of evenly split between those who have submitted previously and those who have submitted and been selected and are looking for a few more tips. So great, good to know who we have in the room with us. A few other notes on who I am. I am a classically trained violinist. I started playing in kindergarten. I still play. I will take you down in Scrabble. And I'm actually really terrible at duck pin, but again, super competitive, which also plays into me supporting my two boys as a sports mom. Love being their #1 fan. So I'm going to pass it off to Mindy.
All right, great. Thank you, Sally. Sally's a tough act to follow. I got kicked out of 7th grade band. The band instructor called my mom and said it was like beating a dead horse, which brings me to my #3 fun fact that I now have a daughter who's an equestrian, who's very competitive and very successful. And I know nothing about equestrian sports or judging or riding. I came up through soccer and softball, so very little to offer there, but happy to support in any way I can. I also, like Sally, super competitive. My game of choice is Yahtzee, and I do love a good round of golf. So with that, we'll turn it over to Belle, who's really impressive.
say that actually. But just to give you guys a little bit of background, I have been with SAME for 13 years. So I have seen a lot of these abstracts and the processes that have gone the way. So that I felt that that was important. As you can see, that was my 11-year-old self there, ice skating, and very proud of that. Can't do any of that today, but that's okay. And in 1982, I was a ball girl at the Queen's final with John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors. And I only bring this up because he lately had a documentary. So someone said, oh, well, that's a really fun fact. So I was like, okay, let's put it in there. So with that said, I'm going to take over the floor and just give you guys a quick overview on how to submit a call for presentations and just how the form is laid out. So with that, I'm going to take my camera off and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see that my screen is here, and this is the form that you get to with the call for presentations. And we do like to give you information. So here's the submission resources. Please read that to its T. It's giving you all the information you will need to submit a quality abstract. Don't skip past this. There's a sample submissions form that we provide so that you can fill in all your information. So when you get to the abstract, you just copy and paste. That way it's all clear of any grammatical errors or spelling mistakes. There's a few frequently asked questions that we get often through the sessions at sme.org email. So that way you know what to be prepared for. So here we go. Let's go in and start. So as you see start, it says last name. So I'm going to say I'm Ferraro and my email address. Okay, and I'm going to search. Here I am. This is me. So I'm going to start. If you don't find yourself, it will come up with, oops, create new profile. Please do that because obviously our system is not recognizing you. Even though you are a member, it may not recognize you because we've just changed over databases. So don't be offended. It doesn't affect the way your abstract is submitted. So just go ahead and create that new profile. So I'm going to start the process. A lot of this stuff is filled in because I am a member and it's recognizing who I am. Make sure you fill in those red ones because they are required. Cell phone number. Please don't call me on it. And city and address. There's my beautiful photo of like, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. Do not use that for yourselves. You should really use a new photo, which is 18 months old, the minimum. I'm actually just going to grab this little bio that I created. And place it here. Qualifications on subject. Well, I know what we're looking for. And past conferences. This is really, honestly, guys, don't mention too many of the past conferences you've presented at, especially if it's recent. But you have to enter something in here. So I'm just going to do that. I've already uploaded my photo. I'm going to continue here. You have to agree to the speaker agreement. It's just like one of those Apple, if you want to update your Apple phone, you have to agree to it regardless. So don't say I do not accept. You have to accept. This is really important, and I'm not going to go into too many details because I know that Sally and Mindy will go through this, but really choose your track carefully which one you want to go into. I get a lot of phone calls from people saying, "Hey Belle, which is the least track that's submitted?" because they know that they have the higher probability to be chosen. But to be honest, last year in SBC 2022, we had 120 submissions and they were evenly parred throughout the tracks. We've added government perspectives purely just for the DoD and federal agencies. So do not submit in that unless you are a DoD or federal agency. I'm just going to go for the entering the federal marketplace because that's just the first one that comes up. I'm going to enter a title. I've been trying this system out, so it will come up one of the ones that I've entered in previously. Unfortunately, the present description will not save, so you need to make sure that you have put that in there and saved it somewhere if you've lost it. Session description for the printed program, very important that you do not say, "I am John Smith speaking on." That is not what people want to hear or see, especially when they review. They want to know what the actual session description is in a few short words. So you really want to market your session well. Burning questions. This is different from, and obviously you can see these get saved, but this is different from JTC, as we don't ask for burning questions for JTC. We ask for learning objectives. For SBC, we really like to know what the audience is going to gain from your session and what burning questions they would have to attend your session. Very important, who is your target audience? I'm going to say government and industry. And this year, we're really going to focus in on what level is the session. Is it a startup? Is it a mid-level and advanced? And this will also be highlighted in our printed program. So here, please read what we write. We don't write it just because. We write it because we really want to give you the best chance to submit your abstract. Additional comments. It says, please do not enter your speaker moderator names here. This is not the point to do it. I know it's easy to add, but that is not the point. We really want to know what your session is going to be about at this point. Again, it says, I'm going to present with one other speaker on same subject. Lots of folks select this one and do not add that speaker at the end. Assign me a moderator. No, I have a moderator. No, I'll find my moderator. Well, okay, assign me a moderator. This is really good for us to know that we can assign a moderator in your topic and make sure that you are set up for success. And are you willing to rebroadcast this session? If you select no, it's unlikely you'll be selected because we do like to share that information to our posts or as a webinar for future reference, or to anyone of interest that has reached out to us and said, "Hey, Belle, I know that you had this great session on Mentor Protege. Can you send it to me?" And we would love to be able to do that. Now at this point, you select continue. Here is the hardest part, okay, that most people miss. Please read this information that's here. So I said that I'm going to select a speaker. Please do so. So here is the add a speaker icon. You go here, it brings you back to that same part that you saw before. Do not miss it out. I'm going to add my fabulous teammate Karen here. I'm going to search. I found Karen, great. If I didn't find Karen, I would then have that same session point that says create new profile. Do not miss it out. Do not be lazy. I didn't find Karen. I can't be asked to add her, so forget about it. Start. And again, as Karen's information has popped up, I need to say the badge name, who she is, company, everything else seems to be added. Do we have cell phone number? We haven't highlighted the cell phone number here because it's not pertinent at this point. They can add it when they do register. And bio is required. Sorry, Karen, to do this to you, but I'm just going to add in a few letters. Continue. So I have successfully added Karen, and if I do not press this magic button here, it will not submit. And as you can see, I did not complete my submittal, but I did put in enough information so I can go back to it and review it before the deadline. I'm going to press submit. And it says here, thank you so much for submitting your abstract, and we will send you an email. With that email, you are able to then go into the Abstract Service Center. We will provide you the information to be able to go back in and sign in. If you sign in here, it brings up that abstract that I just submitted, and it says the date. And see how quickly this has happened? If I wanted to edit this abstract, I can go here and edit that abstract. So please don't feel like because you haven't got 100% of that information there, you can still go back to it at any time before the cutoff date. So with that said, I would like to show you what is next. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. Sorry for the delay. Go through about the call for presentation review process. So you're like asking yourselves, okay, so I submitted my abstract. What happens next? So we do recruit reviewers, to look at those abstracts. We don't just randomly choose names or people that have been, active within the SME community. We really go through and see what these people have done throughout the year, how they have committed to the small business COI. And also we'd like to have seasoned reviewers, but we also do encourage to have newbies to review these abstracts. It's always great to see a new perspective on how they see these abstracts. And then once those reviews are in, and we do provide them a detailed information on how to review those abstracts and make sure that they're fully prepared before they go into the process. Then once those results are in, we do have a 2-hour call for each different track. And sometimes these calls can go on for 3 hours. And we do take your reviews very, very seriously. And we don't just say, okay, because we don't like John Smith, we're not going to let him in. It really is a very active review process. So with that said, I'm just going to share my screen again. And show you what the review committee go into. They go into a separate service center, and we send out to them their login information and give them what is involved in this. So basically for each submission, they will answer 7 questions, 5 asking them to do a scale of 1 to 5, and then the most important is their additional comments, which really, really makes sense when we're actually going through those calls. And we feel like any author is important to us, regardless of whether you scored number 1 or whether you were 30 in the review process. We still feel like it's important that you have to get that direct feedback from us, and we are willing to do that for you. And just reach out to sessions@sme.org and ask, how did you fare? Where did you fare? And why were you not selected? So if I was a reviewer, I would come in here and I would sign in. Here you can see it lists exactly what is going on in this whole process. It explains about the title, the abstract, the task of which is important to you, and also the fact that they can download every PDF where it comes into their selected topic. So some folks may be traveling, they like to download these PDFs, review those on the plane or wherever they are, because we do respect that our volunteers have full-time jobs and they're just fitting it into their schedule. So for example, if I was selected to be in the advanced business procurement track, I show all of them, but that's regardless of the point. And also I do review absolutely every single abstract just to get a feel before I attend all the calls. So right now we have 4 abstracts that have been submitted. And actually, maybe I should just go into my one just to show you how it looks. So if I was a reviewer and I came in and I saw, okay, so the focus area is the entering the federal marketplace, and the session title is Make It Happen. And I have a full presentation description, which I would have done. I would have gone back in and done that for you. And then the 50-word description. This is so important that you get that description and do not say, hey, I'm John Smith and I'm speaking on. That doesn't enthrall any reviewer. And those burning questions are very important to see. Who is the intended audience? What level is it at? Additional comments, presenting one presenter on the same subject, and assign me a moderator. So here it will say, okay, so Belle has submitted, here's a biography. It didn't show the photo, which means to say you need to go in and upload a photo. If you saw your photo there, still add another photo, because obviously it's not showing up in our system the way it works. And I've done that purposely so you can see the way it goes. And there again, with Karen, it says biography, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people say not applicable or I will submit later. Don't do that. Make the time to actually add that biography, or don't give us a link. Our reviewers don't have time to go to a link, especially if they're downloading those PDFs. They're not able to do that on a PDF. So here we are in an abstract form, and they can rate the session. I'm not going to rate it because I don't want to screw up anything for later on, but they will have to rate it on relevance of topic to the AE industry and small businesses from a 1 to 5, 5 being the greatest. Presentation or innovative information, value or best practice. Again, they will rate it from 1 to 5. Quality of the abstract and objectives, competence of the speaker as presented by education and experience, and a level of interest of the SBC audience. This is obviously a judgment call, and then provide any additional comments about the submission, and that would help us in that discussion. And then in order to keep improving our programs, we'd love to give information back to the author. So the reviewers need to spend some time to really give the reviewer their insights on how they felt they could have best improved their abstract. And then they would just go ahead and click save. So once that's done, I'm just going to give you, and forgive me if you are this person, this is an actual completed abstract. You can see that they have the title there. It's following our format. They have a full presentation description, a word description. Obviously, this needs to be tweaked, but it hasn't really hit the mark because the formatting of it hasn't worked. There are the burning questions there, and it's a mid-level. They're a solo presenter of the session, and yes, assign me a moderator. So Wallace has given us his biography. We don't have anything else on him at this point. So that's exactly what the reviewer will see with this abstract. Showing you another one. Here we go again. Presentation title, da-da-da-da. All the information is filled in. And we have the speaker name. He's actually added someone else as well to the abstract. So the more information you can give us now, please do, and don't procrastinate on any of that information. We generally do hold the reviews later, so they have some time to review the content, and just in case there's a few of you ladies who come in to add and submit your abstract, we do try to close it for the 12th, but we may extend that a little longer. So with that said, just turning it back. Okay. I'm just going to hand it back to Sally. Oh, Sally, to go over about making your abstract pop.
All right. Thanks, Belle. That was a super involved presentation. And Mindy, if you want to join me back as we kind of go through some of the tips as reviewers. So just a little bit about sort of my experience with the abstract process. I've sat on 5 or 6 review committees. I have led teams. I've been a member of teams. The teams are generally anywhere from 4 to 6 participants. From a wide range of backgrounds, but almost everybody in that track has expertise in that area. So that as Belle explained, we try to make it as fair of a process as possible. And Mindy has also led a number of review committees, been a part of review committees. So this is coming from looking at collectively hundreds of abstracts over time. And I will show you what I do just because Belle showed the electronic version. So what I do as a reviewer is I take all of them and I print them out into a binder. This is a 3-inch binder. I print them all out and then I print out my review sheet and I go through every single one on paper so that I can make the edits and comparisons. I usually will tab them to say, hey, this one's similar to this, review, go back. So it is an extremely involved process. And as Belle had mentioned, they get separated out into different tracks. There are, one of the last times I did a review, there were 45 some odd abstracts that we were reviewing at once. So when I say that, that the reviewers are dedicated volunteers trying to make sure that the best content is being brought forth, I mean it very seriously that that they take their job to the utmost seriousness as we work through the process. And because there are so many different abstracts that we are reviewing, it is very important that some of these tips that we go through are followed, because you saw the review is a 5-point system and 5 or 6 different areas, plus comment areas. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it means that you can miss out on a couple of things. So we're going to help you with that. Okay. So first and foremost, know the SAME audience for SBC. The Small Business Conference is intended for the education and improvement and growth of small businesses, their teaming partners, and connection with their clients. If you bring forth a technical session that does not fit into the 4 categories that were discussed, entering the marketplace, marketing, business development, regulation, advanced business, procurement strategies, know that it may not be for this conference. The Small Business Conference, again, for small businesses. Technical sessions, best left for the Joint Engineer Training Conference in May. Or what we will also find is that we will sometimes say in the comments back after we've done a review that your session does not fit SBC, JETC, and we recommend that you look at a different organization for your session. The audience tends to be at SBC. We have 5,000 people that attend. Generally, you're going to find that they have 10 plus years of experience, many in the 20 to 40 year range. So when you're bringing forth very basic level presentations, yes, there are small businesses that are brand new to the federal marketplace, but understand the vast majority of attendees are on the much more experienced side and want to have a meaty presentation, something with really good takeaways there. So just understand that level 101 presentations are welcome. The vast majority of people are not going to respond to that. So that's number 1. Second is been there, done that. Are you bringing a fresh perspective? Many times what we'll hear is, oh my God, it's the same content every single year. Well, maybe you just looked at the title and it was on capabilities briefings. Yes, because yes, we will have a session on capabilities briefings. They are a core, integral part of doing business with the government and with clients. But what we do look for is making sure that they are bringing a different perspective, a new viewpoint, a new takeaway, something else that's a best practice that's emerged because of something that has happened in the industry. So, yes, there are going to be topics that are evergreen, and we love them. And we keep bringing them back because they keep filling the room because they are still very important. But if you're bringing a topic that's been talked about before and you've not reviewed some of the ones that have been presented going through past conference agendas, it may be flagged as like a, been there, done that. So remember to think new, innovative, fresh. What's going to be the thing that's going to differentiate your presentation from the ones that have either been done before or being done out in industry already? Why is it that we want to bring your presentation to the table?
Great. Thank you, Sally. That was fantastic. So picking your track, be careful. A lot of times I've been a reviewer on lots of these. I've also submitted and trying to figure out where my abstract fits well into these tracks. There's 4 key ones that Belle went over briefly: entering the federal marketplace, marketing and business development, regulations, rules and government framework, and advanced business and procurement strategies. And then also the government perspectives that are for our DoD and federal agency presenters. If you're not sure of where your topic or abstract fits, reach out to SAME headquarters. Belle is a great resource. I mean, I can't speak enough about how well this national team pulls together information and resources and is helpful to us as members of SAME. So use that resource. Now, if your topic, for instance, is positioning for the next market shift, and you submit it in regulations, rules, and government framework, and not the marketing and business development track, there's a high likelihood that it won't even be reviewed. Or what will happen is it'll get pushed down to the end of that review session. And when someone thinks, oh, wow, this should go into marketing and business development, it's better suited for that, they'll go ahead and shift it over to that review committee, but it may be too late. It may be put on the back burner for later. So you need to make sure that you're picking the correct track where you submit, because you want to get out in front first. You don't want to be on the back burner, behind the 8 ball, any other jargon or sayings we can say about that. I will tell you that the review committee are very, very opinionated about what fits in what tracks. They are really mindful of where these should be. And if it will stand out, if you submit in the wrong track, it'll be blatantly clear to the review committee. So just make sure that you ask the question. If you're not sure, you can always reach out to Sally and I as well, or anyone, to ask, hey, where do you think this fits? And I think they do a really good job of explaining those tracks as well. So that's my opinion on picking the right tracks. And I will say, if you're not, Sally had referenced before, if it gets moved to another track, it may go into the program, or it may be held back for a webinar or another conference down the road. All right. A good session title matters. And this matters so much because in today's world, we have an 8-second attention span, and that's diminishing. It's less than a goldfish at 9. I'm sure you've heard that, but it's getting worse and worse the more we get information thrown at us through technology. So your title is your first impression to make to the review committee, and it's super important. You need to grab the attention quick. And they also should be able to tell what your whole session is about based on that title. And that's tough because Belle gives you 7 words to accomplish this in. But you want to create a catchy, relevant title that also ties back to your learning objectives or those burning questions. So whatever those 7 words are, they should absolutely reflect what your learning objectives are, what you hope to accomplish. I will tell you also have an opportunity to write a 50-word description for your session, but how many of you read word for word? Now, I know there are some of you out there, but there are a few that will just look at the session title and go. You also have to deliver on your promise. So if you have a great catchy title that says this is what we're going to do, like position for the next market shift, then I want to hear what's happening in the market. I want to make sure it's tied to that and not hear about how to create an SF330 for different markets. You don't want to lose people, because it's the worst thing is to sit into a session that you're excited about. You have so many to choose from. You zero in on that, and it's completely not what you thought it was going to be. So being clear and concise is also super important. Titles should be useful to the reader. They should be able to ascertain all the information they need in those 7 words. It also needs to be a sense of urgency imparted. Why do I need to sit in this session? What's important for me? What am I going to get out of it? Does it meet a need that I have or a challenge that I'm facing that I need to hear about? So it has to be relevant. And you do this by, again, tying those to your learning objectives or those burning questions. Examples, again, like I said, position for the next market shift. One from JETC, which I thought was really good: mission imperative for federal cybersecurity commissioning standards. We all know we're faced with that. If that doesn't make it imperative that you sit into that and there's sense of urgency, I don't know what would be. And finally, in terms of titles, please do not use caps. This is for Belle. We're all friends here. We don't need to yell at each other. So please avoid using caps in your titles. Sally?
Thanks, Mindy. I feel like this goes without saying, and Belle tried to share this over and over again in her section, but submit a complete abstract. Nothing will kill your abstract faster than blank spaces or incomplete thoughts. So I thought of this in terms of, we're in the federal procurement world. There are LPTAs, right? Where you are doing the bare minimum because you know that they're going to focus on the price. And then there's best value. So we're not going to be an LPTA house. What Belle did in her example, that would be LPTA, right? She just checked the boxes. And there are words where it said put words, but that does not mean they're good words. So let's think of this as more of like a best value presentation, right? Where we need to have complete thoughts. Let's come up with a problem statement, a solution, tactics to address it, and next steps. And you're going to put that all into the abstract. What we do not want to have happen is have people say, if you select my session, I will tell you the secret solution, and you will only get it after you have chosen me. Right? Not in the review process, right? If we cannot figure out what in the world your solution is and the tactics and the next steps that are actually going to be presented to the audience, we're not going to allow you to get up on stage to then possibly present a solution that is a solution that was presented 20 years ago, right? Or a solution that is dumb, like, let's just say it, right? Like, we want to make sure that we are presenting best in class information, and that needs to be put into the abstract. Complete sentences, grammatically correct, proofread that thing, get people to read through it, and make sure the information and all of the fields are included. And I know Belle said that like, don't put too many of the sessions that you've already presented it to, but like, it is, again, don't skip over sections. Just because you are very well known within the SAME community does not mean that you get a pass for not completing the abstract the way it is supposed to be completed. So please complete abstract. All right, and then get to the point. What we've seen happen sometimes, particularly from our authors who have written excellent books, is that we will find that they copy, cut, and paste complete excerpts or chapters from their books and stick it into the abstract. Okay, that's a no-no. Let's not do that. Let's make sure that we stay focused and highlight the areas that are important for the audience. Another no-no is going slide by slide, saying slide 1, we'll talk about X, Y, and Z. Slide 2, we'll talk about X, Y. Again, this is an abstract. This is not your actual presentation. So make sure that what you are saying is going to get to the core of your messaging and the mission that you are trying to accomplish here. Say what needs to be said. Do not leave stuff off the table, right? Or on the table. you've got a solution that is like mind blowing, tell our abstract reviewers. I can't tell you how many times that there are times where I will review an abstract, it gets selected, and I will be like, you guys, it's not in the schedule yet, but this one is gonna blow your mind. I read that abstract and it's gonna be amazing. Make us root for you guys. And again, this be a resource and not a sales pitch. If you are in that abstract review trying to sell a book, if we get a whiff of anything where you are trying to sell a training session later on, you are trying to sell a book later on, you are trying to sell your brand new webinar series, it is a hardcore no. It is an educational session. Keep it to the facts. Make sure that people walk out of the room with the value that we intend to have them gain through SBC. Okay. Whew, that was a lot.
I can feel the energy. Thanks, Sally. Consider bringing a co-presenter or a team to the mix. Panels tend to be the highest attended sessions at the conferences. And the nice thing about having a panel or co-presenters is that they tend to be a little more engaging. You can offer a variety of ideas. You're offering differing perspectives to an audience that's pretty diverse. You can have small business owners, large business, marketing professionals, engineers, architects, government officials, all these great things. And when you have a conversation on a panel, it tends to spill out to the audience. So you have more Q&A session. It engages more honest conversation. It sparks this magical thing where people want to continue the conversation after the session. So you might be a great platform to go and network with others or talk about other things. And especially, it supports our mission of industry government engagement too. If you can get a panel of government officials, private industry, all the pieces required to make our industry tick, all the more. And again, they are the more highly attended sessions, especially if you can include government or agency officials or DoD, military folks onto that team too. That will also drive interest into your abstract and also to your session as well for the audience. And then please remember, when completing your speaker abstract, Belle alluded to it, you have to include all the panelists in your submission. I reviewed a lot of panel ideas, abstracts, where I don't know who. We're going to fill this in later, or we'll get somebody from the Navy later. No, we really need to know, because we have to make, like Sally said, an informed decision that we are putting forward the best of the best for these sessions and for our audience members. So, all right, moving right along. Okay, might be my favorite topic of all time, so bear with me. One of the things that is an absolute turnoff as a reviewer is presentation styles and that are not clearly described are absolutely cringeworthy. And we say cringeworthy, we mean it's a total sales pitch. And Sally alluded to this, but let me just tell you from experience, and I'm going to have a disclaimer first. It's called the Law and Order disclaimer. The following stories are fictional and does not depict any actual personal or event, but they are damn close. So these are inspired by real events of a reviewer. So with that being said, know your audience. Sally said, audience is about 10 plus years of experience. We do not use the words sales or customers in AEC industry. I can't tell you reviewing abstracts where they talk about the sales and they talk about their customers. It is very different for us. I look at it as business development and clients. Right. So we just want to be mindful of what our industry is. Again, know your audience. Treat it like you're submitting a package to a client. You're going to use their terminology, their words, the industry standards, best practices. We also don't want to ensure or guarantee results from having attended this session. That's a total turnoff because we don't know. And please keep in mind that 70% of attendees are small businesses. So if you're presenting something that requires a high capacity, a lot of people engaged, or a ton of resources and hard costs, please keep that in mind and be mindful that some of these small businesses of 10 people, 50 people don't have the same resources as the large mega businesses that are in our industry as well. Okay, so probably my biggest pet peeve is this jargon, using sales jargon and dated language. We tend to use jargon because it feels convenient, comfortable, safe, that it's easy. It takes less words to use jargon to convey big meaning, but it's actually harder for us to communicate effectively when we are so riddled with jargon throughout these abstracts that we can't even figure out what you're trying to present or do. So these terms add nothing to the conversation. And you alienate others who you turn off. I know a lot of times if I'm in a heavy sales pitch or a heavy laden jargon explanation of something, I completely just zone out. I can't follow it. So some of these things that we should try to stay away from, and this is just personal opinion and experience, widgets, big, hairy, audacious goals. They had an article on the top buzzwords that were disgusting people across the board in the industry. Some of those were like pivot, agile, out of the box synergy, or my personal favorites, low hanging fruit, thrown under the bus, 100%. So we should try to stay away from that overused terminology as well and get very clear and concise on what we're trying to convey. Also want to say, try to stay away from heavy use of acronyms. You know, there's nothing worse than reading an abstract session title that has 15 acronyms in the description, because again, you do have attendees and audience members who are coming in for this educational opportunity who are new to the federal marketplace, or are still trying to navigate their way around it. There's a lot of times we'll have people ask, well, what does that mean? We're not sure what that acronym stands for. So we want to make sure that we're describing things, at least in our abstract. So when we go to take that to a session title or even take it to the session description, that we have a clear understanding of what we're talking about for all. This is not the time to test new methods or processes or things that you've developed that you have your own terminology assigned to and are lengthy. So these are like methods or processes that you really need a workshop to understand. You have 40 minutes to present. So trying to get this new idea or this method or process, something that really is a workshop type information, is really not the right place for this. There just isn't enough time to pull it off and pull it off successfully. We also want to use common terms in the industry. So best practices, again, I had mentioned sales and customers, where we should be using business development and clients. Use terminology that's readily used in AEC and in the federal environment. And then never submit, Sally said this, sales pitches as a reviewer. I don't want to read them. I don't want a sales pitch. Again, you have to be mindful of why you're here and why you're presenting. You're presenting to add value and education to our audience members. Again, they don't want to use car sales pitch. And that's what it feels like. And a lot of the abstracts that we've reviewed sometimes feel that way. You can tell immediately when somebody's trying to sell a training session, a series, a book, whatever it may be. So please try to stay away from that. It just isn't the right fit for this conference. And choose your words carefully. Again, less is more. Get to the point quickly and clearly. Oftentimes that I've found in reviewing abstracts that people try to cover too much. I'm guilty of it too. There's so much that we can talk about. But I think the most successful abstracts narrow that down. There's 3 key takeaways, 3 key points, 3 key takeaways in those session descriptions. It's very clear. We stay in our lane. We're showing our expertise. We're supporting it with case studies and examples and some success or some metrics at the end. And I will say one of the, when you're looking at your titles too, just make sure that you're not using a lot of, it's good to convey excitement and urgency and describe it, but don't get too crazy about using jargon in your titles. And then also buzzwords. For instance, this is true story, but words have been changed to protect the innocent. Again, it's my Law and Order moment. A session title, How to Increase Widget Sales and Pitch Customers by Developing Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals and Thinking Outside of the Box so your boss doesn't throw you under the bus. Very similar to that. So just leaving that cheeky for you. And then finally, the only thing I would say about this and not being cringeworthy, again, don't talk about me, I. This again is presented for the audience. Be mindful of your audience. It's all about them. What can we do as presenters to help the audience with their challenges, to be mindful? It should always be about the audience and educating them. Just like we serve our clients, we're doing business development efforts and we're managing projects. It is all about the client's needs, the client's challenges, how we can help. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Mindy. All right. And then let's see. Young professionals and newbies to SAME should submit. We would love to have new voices as part of the conversation here to present new ideas, new topics. Our young professionals have a lot to say, and we would love to hear more of what that is. So, and sometimes with the young professionals, what works really well is pairing the young professionals with a more seasoned professional that can also help offset maybe the inexperience of presenting with somebody who's a little bit more seasoned or a government speaker. That's a good way to maybe not throw yourself into the deep end on try number one, but make sure that you're presenting a well-rounded team. And then newbies to SAME. You don't have to be a member of SAME in order to present to our audience. You just need to know the small business community, understand the mission of the our clients and our federal agencies that we're working with, and have something interesting to say. And final slide for our tips. If at first you don't succeed, try again. We do encourage that folks that have submitted in the past to try again, to take those comments that we supply back to them and bring them to the table. Maybe it was an instance of 4 people submitted on, I'm going to go back to the example of capabilities briefings. So if we've got 4 options on capabilities briefings, sometimes it doesn't mean that you didn't have a great abstract. It just meant that we were selecting from a number of great abstracts there. So, so just keep in mind that you have the conversation with SAME, have the conversation with people that are in the same space about what are some ways that can be improved. And let's keep the conversation going, because what we don't want to have happen is you try, it doesn't happen the first time around, or maybe it doesn't even happen the second time around, and you give up. Well, then we end up with the same voices over and over again, and then just becomes this cycle of, SAME doesn't choose new people. Well, you stopped submitting. So of course, now we have the same voices. So please try again. We encourage you to keep going. All right, Mindy, I think we're going to have time for a couple questions. Oh, Belle?
Well, I was just going to say, actually, listening to your discussion, I felt like maybe we should just share with the folks what the actual review sheet looks like after you've reviewed it, so they can see the actual intricacies of how that review process goes with the results and how we make those decisions. I'll just give a quick overview. I won't go into too many details, but I feel like at this point, folks need to see how much effort and time you've put in with the comments that you've made and with how you've scored and how those abstracts actually get selected. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to share my screen for like a hot minute just to show folks, so then maybe they have more questions as well at the end of that.
And feel free, while Belle's bringing this up, to put additional questions into the Q&A section. We'll go through all of them. And we see some really interesting ones that we need to cover.
So real quickly, guys, I just want to let you know, I mean, the reviewers really spend at least 20 to 25 hours going through these abstracts. And what we'd like to do for them is to provide this Excel sheet with all the comments. So basically we give them, you know, in the top order number of how they were rated overall. And then we have the categories. And what we do is we spend time to divide them into categories, because obviously we're looking for a well-rounded track. We do not want, if the top 6 happen to be JV and MV, we cannot have all on joint ventures and mentor proteges. So we need to have a well-rounded track. So what we'd like to do, we highlight the reviewers' top 10. And you can see the top 10, this person, Jeff, actually had all his scoring in that top 10. And other folks do find a little bit of a different viewpoint. And that's where it's room for discussion when we actually go through these reviews. So just quickly see the top 6 that were chosen, and these are highlighted in green. And with the blues, these are the ones that were submitted as panels. With the grays, these are ones where folks have actually submitted either it twice in that same track or submitted elsewhere in other tracks. And we like to give as many small businesses the opportunity to present. So we like to just choose one abstract for that particular person. So they're not happen. Say, for example, if Carl submitted in 4 tracks and he came up first or second or wherever in that track, we cannot have Carl present 4 times. So we like to keep it fair and have as many small businesses present as possible. So you may say, oh, okay, well, why was mine not accepted when I submitted 2 fantastic abstracts? Well, we really want to make sure that we have enough time and effort to provide those small businesses an opportunity to present in front of our audiences. You see here, Cole submitted another one that was great. It was in capture planning, but we actually selected one a little further down. And what we end up doing is we go through the categories. We don't just select the top 10. We go through each category and say, for example, we choose capture planning. So the number 1 was Cole, but as Cole was selected in another category, we ended up going for the one underneath. And that's why that particular abstract was selected over Cole's, but actually Cole scored higher. So there is a rhyme and reason to why certain abstracts are selected. And as you can see with the different categories, we have one on risk management, JV, MV, timely topic, leadership, succession planning, and then we have partnering. So you can see it's a really well-rounded track. This one in leadership, we felt like it was a great submittal, but felt it was just too early and to submit next year with updates. And then we went back to that particular author and told him this. So hopefully, Ted, you will submit this year, because we loved your ideas, but we felt that it was a little too early in the process for this particular conference. So hopefully that helped with folks understanding the whole process. And I'm going to go back to the slides here, and maybe I should put all cameras on, guys. Let's all see our faces right now from the audience. And, let's see, Mindy, I'm going to hand it back to you so you can facilitate the Q&A and see what's what.
Great. Thank you, Belle. All right. We have several questions. The first one is, how much weight does having presented the topic previously carry in the evaluation process?
Okay.
Bella, you want to take that?
Sure. How much weight does having presented the topic previously carry in there? Okay. So what we do is we look to see whether the presenter has presented before in the same topic. And often if we're indecisive on whether to choose one over the other, what we will do is go back and say, okay, so that's where my role comes into this actual play. So I will say, okay, guys, this topic was submitted in 2020, 2021, 2022, and it wasn't selected. And so maybe that's because it just wasn't hitting the mark, and that's not good. Sometimes the topic is always relevant, like CPARS, for example. We know that always pulls a great audience, so that's a topic that's always going to be in place, and we always want to hear from that. So there's certain topics that are always relevant. Cybersecurity. Right now we have new topics that are coming up, supply chain. So we have to keep relevant, but also topics that are repeated are also relevant. As long as if you're going to repeat the same topic, update it and make sure that you've put that in the additional comments. This is an updated topic that was selected from last year, and we've actually grown and we've improved it. And let us know where it's changing, because our audience don't want to say the same title and the same session description, because I said, I saw that last year, forget about it, I'm going to go and see something else. So just bear that in mind when you're submitting your abstracts. Hopefully that answered your question there, Derek.
I'll just add one other note. So I think sometimes it's nice when you're not using that presentation your very first time ever presenting on this topic in front of an audience, in front of the SBC audience. So while it is not absolutely necessary that you've test run essentially the presentation somewhere else to make sure that you've gotten the kinks out and it's top notch. It is nice to sometimes see that you have presented maybe at a post level and then are bringing it to the big stage. To follow up on Belle, if you've presented that same exact topic like 8 times in 8 different places, then we may have to pass on it because it's not fresh. It's not a new idea. So,
great. There's a flip side to it for sure. All right. Ben asked, how do we determine the level, startup, mid-level, etc.?
You want me to take that, Sally, or are you going to go with that?
Mindy, how would you take it?
I would love to. So Ben, I think it depends on what I would do is your research, go back and look at past SBC programs, see what has been presented. I think if it's very entry level, like this, if your audience, think of your audience, and if your audience, this is new information, this session is geared to somebody who's first in the, entering the federal marketplace, the first time doing SF 330s, the first time, getting CPARs or how to meet with the Corps or talk to them, then that definitely would be a startup. Mid-level would be more that, you have maybe 3 to 5 years of experience as a firm in the federal marketplace. So these topics tend to have a little bit of a foundation to them. So you have a foundational understanding of the industry, especially in the federal marketplace, but this is elevated a little bit more. So it's not just entry 101 type topics, but it's actually building on that foundation. And then I think when you get to the higher level, this is firms that have been around for 10, 15 years within the industry, and you can really target what are some of those pain points. Is it succession? Is it growth into other markets? Is it leveraging those relationships within the industry? How do you find the teaming partners? What if you're graduating from a small business to large business? What does that look like? So those are just some ideas, and I hope that helped. If anybody wanted to add more to that.
I think I'll add that you had mentioned, Mindy, about sometimes it's good. Sometimes you try to cover a lot of topics in one session. Sometimes when you're going to do a lot of topics in one session, you're going to find that you can only hit so much information. So that's going to be your entry level kind of position. If you're going to do a deep dive on, the technical skills that are necessary to, advance a solution forward, then you're going to think of that as more advanced kind of session.
And I always like to think of, if you're submitting a startup, like an entry level session at this year SBC, when you deliver that, think about what's the progression of that. How do I kick it up a notch and take it further? Because people do like to hear things, get a basic understanding, and then how do we elevate that each year moving forward?
Yeah. And I just want to add also, we're now, SAME, what we'd like to do is highlight in the program actually, because we haven't done this before in the past, but we really want to say, this session is startup. this session is entry level, entry level startup. This session is mid level. So we even highlight that in the program so they know the expectation before going in. Is this too advanced for me? Or is this something that I'm going to be bored at? I let folks, when they come out, say, oh, it was a great refresher. No, we don't really want that. We want you to learn. We want you to really get the most out of the program. And so this year, we're really going to target that for everybody. So perhaps we're going to color code those sessions or something so it highlights what the level of the session will be. And we also would do adding that in the review process. So we have a nice, well-rounded track to cover every area and aspect.
That's great. All right. Melissa asked, are you saying abstracts geared to people who are new to the industry are not needed?
No.
No.
So we're not saying don't do it. We're just saying that we're bringing a range of people into the conference, and at each level we need to pay attention. I think what happens oftentimes is that the easiest types of presentations are the entry level ones. And so we tend to get a lot more of those kind of entry level, mid-level kind of presentation and don't have enough on the advanced level. So I'm not saying don't submit, particularly if you've got an interesting take on something or a new objective, some great sort of worksheets that you can hand out to the audience members, things like that. Those are always excellent. We just want to also encourage people to think a little bit more about our senior level people in addition to our entry level people.
Right, I think that's great. And I think this particular topic, people new to the industry, is why that entering the federal marketplace track exists. And that's really well attended, has been my experience. And people are thirsty for especially soft skills training as it relates, not so much the technical, but what are the HR issues? What are succession planning, strategic planning, marketing and business development? How to have conversations, communications are really important because those are some business aspects that aren't always covered in school and trade school or college and university. So we want to make sure that, we definitely have something that appeals to all parties.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Great question. All right. Lauren asks, is there a way to look back for comments on unsuccessful abstract submittals from 2022?
Take that. Lauren, you can shoot us an email at sessions@same.org. And our counterpart, Karen, which you can't see here, she's behind the scenes, making all the magic work. And she will respond to you. As you can see with that grid we have all the feedback from the reviewers, and we're willing to share that with you. We want to make sure that, it takes time and effort for you to submit these abstracts. We don't just dismiss you because you weren't submitted. We do value your time, and please continue to submit these abstracts. But yes, we will try and guide you how your abstract could have improved, perhaps adding the government speaker. A lot of our folks want to hear from the government. And if you have that government speaker, they're just backing you up on your session. So please listen to what we have to say. Don't take it personal. It's not personal. The reviewers don't take it personally. We actually give them a huge guide on how they have to be neutral in the selection process. If they hold a grudge against someone because everyone knows everybody, right? So don't hold, they're not allowed to hold a grudge. They're not allowed to say, well, this person's been speaking for the last 10 years at SBC. Now, then no one is allowed to do that, in the sense that the integrity of this whole process is amazing. And we really pride ourselves on doing that. So yes, please reach out to us, Lauren. Don't give up. We will help you tweak it. You listen to the great comments that Sally and Mindy have said today. Please take that home with you. It's going to submit in the next couple of days. If you want to ask for advice, reach out to sessions@sme.org. We can give you some advice. Obviously, we can't sway you into telling you what's been submitted, but we can perhaps answer some of those questions offline that you'd like to ask. So please go ahead and ask us.
And I would add too, if I can, having reviewed so many submissions over the years, probably the top 3 things that are the deciding factor for me is if there's 8 topics, people, let's say seller doer training, we have 8 submissions on seller doers. The ones that rise to the top are the most clear and concise, that at first pass, I can completely understand what you're trying to present and what your learning objectives are, and that are engaging to the audience. So typically what happens where you kind of shut off as a reviewer is if it's too wordy, if there's too much fluff and not enough substance, that you have so many words where you could be very concise and get in and out, like say exactly what you're going to deliver and get out, and not overdo it, because quantity isn't quality. It's, you want to make sure that you're conveying exactly what it is. And I usually start, and this is some place where I start as a helpful hint, hopefully, I always start with my learning objectives. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want my attendees of my session to learn from this? And how do they align with the challenges that are out there in the industry today? And when I start from there and then I back into my presentation, you can become a lot more clear and concise. So just a hint on my end, and when you're addressing these things, and less words. It doesn't have to be a ton of words. All right, we have one more question. Stephanie from Omaha. How is the category decided if it's not on the application, or am I missing it? Do you mean category in terms of startup, mid-level?
I was thinking maybe it was the category in terms of which track. Both of those should be in the application form. Both the track, it's one of the first things that you'll click through, as well as the which level the presentation is going to be at. Both of those should be there. And if you feel like something is missing and it's going to bring value, there is the added additional the additional comments area, so you can also add something there.
Okay, I do have a question, Belle, if you don't mind me asking. I'm just curious, once abstracts are selected, how are the time slots determined, the days and times that you present? Because sometimes it's tough if you get a later in the day slot when you're up against a reception, or like the last session of the whole
Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
just preparing everybody.
people try to bribe me to get them in on Wednesday. So it's really hard, Mindy. And what we end up doing, I'll just share my screen, and I love to share my screen. Not that I really do love to share my screen, but I'm just going to show you guys what we start with, the blank canvas. So, sorry, this is a blank canvas. So basically this is a session grid. And this year, unfortunately, we only have 6 rooms because the audience is so large. If any of you attended JTC this year, you noticed we had 8 rooms, but we've had to combine the business opportunity sessions in the larger rooms. So we only have 4 rooms in which we're going to have 5 tracks, which are government perspectives. But anyway, what we end up doing, and you asked, we normally we don't want to put all the top sessions all on Wednesday per se, and then and then the rest on Thursday, and the worst ones on Friday. So basically, we try to do number 1 that was hit go on Wednesday, number 2 would be in Thursday, and number 3 would be on Friday. Also, what we have to do, we have to counteract, or like if a speaker happens to be speaking twice, we have to make sure that they're not speaking on the same day. So we might put them here in the advanced business track, they're speaking perhaps, and then bring them down here on a Thursday. And then on the Friday, we have to then determine who can hold the audience. It's really hard to get folks to come in at 9 a.m. for that session. And we understand, and it's not fair, but at the end of the day, it is a conference that is going on for 2.5 days. And we have to make sure that that program is just as solid on a Friday as it is on that Wednesday. And we do really take pride in making sure that we have these great sessions for our folks on Friday. What we try to do on that Friday morning at 9 a.m. is have more niche sessions. So ones that folks will actually, like Nashville, for example, Everyone goes out Thursday night and they're all drinking and having great time. And we appreciate that. And we love that about our SME members. But we have to make sure that that 9 a.m. session is something that people will show up for. So hydropower, for example, really only USAs are into that. So, hey guys, you're going to get out for that session. For example, on the 9 a.m. session, we had the Department of Interior. We had over 200 folks attend that session in Nashville. That meant that that was so important for them to show up for that 9 a.m. session. So we have to make sure that the 9 a.m. sessions are really chosen, those niche sessions that folks are really interested in, that will be able to attend. And then also that last session on that Friday is important. So what we're going to try and do this year is have less education sessions and more business opportunity sessions, so that the education sessions are more up here during the Wednesday and Thursday. So hopefully that kind of gave you a snippet on what we like to do. It's very hard. We do try to not have AECOM compete against AECOM on the same session times. We go through this whole rigmarole. It takes, honestly, I go through it. It takes me like 3 days to really go through all of the speakers, all of the companies, and making sure that we don't want Black and Veatch competing against Black and Veatch. We have to make sure that if USAY is speaking, we have to make sure that they're tailored through the whole program, and that may mean that they're going to be on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So a lot goes into this, and folks don't really understand how it happens. It's not about bribery. Trust me, I'd be so rich by now if it was. So it takes a lot of effort and time to create that. And I'm sorry, sometimes everyone says, well, why would you put me on a Friday, Belle? You've known me for years. And, why would you do this to me? Or I've even heard people on their sessions, because I listen back to the recordings and say, hey, Belle last year gave me Friday slot, and this year we have a better session slot. It's not about that. It's this whole, programmatic view that we have to really look at, and we're seeing the big picture instead of the smaller aspect of it. And hopefully, Mindy, that answered a little bit of your question.
Yeah. No, that's very insightful. Thank you. I know how hard you guys work. I mean, all the conferences that I get engaged in over the years, you guys, hands down, the best resource. You give so much upfront, great information, everybody, to succeed. You are top notch for sure. So I was just curious, because I've had people ask me and I'm like, I don't know, randomizer. I don't know how they do it.
Spin the wheel and
yep.
comes up, but it takes a lot more time and effort to actually do that and really create the program the way it is.
No, I love it.
Yeah, and then also what we do look at is we look at the counts. So we go back, I don't want to share my screen again, but I have the counts from last year, and we look at the counts and compare to how well did we do in that review process? Did we nail it? And we do that, right? So I will say, maybe this session was number 1, risky business was rated number 1, but was poorly attended. And the one that we were struggling with at the end, and we all decided, you know how it is, girls. We've been on these reviews, and I'm on every single one. So it is insane by the end of it. But we look at it and we're deciding between that last one. Should we let it in? Should we not? And then often that's the one that was best attended. So we're not saying that we're perfect here. Sally and Mindy and all the reviewers, we're not saying we're perfect. We try to be as fair as possible. So bottom line is, make sure you follow the processes. The processes are there for a reason. We give you all the information for a reason. And we don't just want you to spend time just going through it. And well, why do they add in this? Read, please read. Because honestly, at the end of the day, if you're not reading what we're asking for, then you're losing half the battle. And then, as Sally was saying, the title is so important, and make sure that description really encompasses what you want to say for the printed program. Because ideally, folks on a printed program or the program itself look at the title first. Does that interest me, right? And then you're looking, well, who's speaking? You look at the speakers, and then you go into the session description. Yes, that's for me. And we're adding that extra layer to say whether it's entry level, mid-level, or advanced. And then that kind of is the icing on the cake to say, yes, I want to attend that session. And obviously, guys, you do have the opportunity to attend sessions recorded after the fact if you are indecisive which one to attend. And so hopefully that helps you out.
That's great.
Belle pretty much went through all of our summary items that we were going to go over.
She's done this before. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We go.
We'll say it again. We said it once. We said it again. We're going to say it one last time. A complete and well-written description. Does the abstract fit within the track? Make sure it's relevant, a relevant topic to the AEC industry and small businesses. Make sure it's a presentation of innovative information. It brings value to the audience or a best practice. And one quick thing that Belle triggered a thought. There was one session I remember I was so excited for. I was it rated super high. And the guy had said, I'm going to do a TED Talk style presentation. I've never seen one of those done at SBC. My butt is in seat for row 1. And it was not a TED Talk style. It was a regular schmegular presentation. And when the person submitted the next year, everybody kind of went, So yes, Mindy had said, deliver on what it is that you say that you are going to do. I would love to have TED Talk style. I love having workshop style. I love having different styles brought to the table that are not just person at front talking to people in audience. We would love to bring it. If you can deliver it, we want to see it. From competent speakers that have the education and experience to back it up. And just make sure that all of your speakers are listed in the program. We don't want to have any point reductions off of really silly missing information. And bring something that is of interest to the small business community of interest, to the SBC audience. We have an excellent group, a large group of people who attend the conference, and bringing them value, lasting value, is incredibly important to us. So with that, Belle, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Any final words, Belle?
I really don't have too much to say. I'm just saying that I'm so impressed with you, Sally, and Minzy. Amazing. You guys are just awesome, and we're so grateful to have you as volunteers. And also, you guys got to realize volunteering has to be fun, and working with this great group of girls, with the team, with the SBCOI, get involved with SAME, have fun with this. We'll have fun with the team, learn a little bit more. You know what? It's easy to criticize, but unless you know how it's actually on the inside. So get involved. Make sure that, you've not just showing up just for the abstracts. You're showing up through the year. If we have these SMEs out there, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you involved in the SBCOI. So anyway, back to the call for presentations process. Any questions, direct them to sessions@sme.org. Karen, you're going to have a lot of emails. Sorry about that, but it is as it is. So just wrapping this up real quick. You know that call for presentations is ending June 12th. We may give you a little bit of leeway. We're not like your contracts that are due on that day. We may let you go for a little more days if that's possible. But 50% of the abstracts do arrive on the day of the deadline, which I know that you guys all work around deadlines. So as you can see, exhibit sales open June 15th, early bird discount August 15th. If you were to moderate or speak, you get the discounted rate, and housing opens in July. So with that said, I think we're done. And I just want to say thank you so much, Sally, for your brilliant idea to do this. I know I was like, I don't think we have time. But yes, we did. We made it happen. Well, you guys made it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Mindy.
Mindy, we couldn't say better about, the support that we're having right now. And we love it. We love the enthusiasm. Thank you for that. And guys, just good luck with those abstracts. We wish you well. We only have 30 sessions this year. And so it really will be, amongst the top. So make sure that you make that abstract pop. So with that said, Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we bid you goodbye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck. Ciao.
You're simply